Hey, welcome back to DC.
Nice. Welcome back, guys. It's DC in your home.
In your home, because you're at your house right now.
Yeah.
And we're chilling here in Reagan's bedroom, right?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I mean, you play the drums and.
Yeah.
And
well, that's my bed.
That's what you sleep on.
Yeah, I sleep and play drums. I just love it so much. I basically sleep.
You don't ever sleep.
No.
I take it. Hey, welcome to DC. We're super glad that you are back with us this week. We have an exciting time tonight. Michelle is going to be our guest speaker tonight as we're week 2. Seriously, in our new series. Seriously.
Our Seriously series.
That's
Seriously.
right. So wait, seriously? Is this your room, by the way?
Seriously.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Wow, that's really cool. Alrighty. Well, hey, how about we do a little kind of mixer, make sure everyone is here and hanging out with us. And last week we did Would You Rather, but what if tonight we did little trivia?
A little trivia.
Yeah.
I love trivia.
Okay. Well, in the live chat, type in your answer, and let's put up the first slide, and which is this: what was the first toy to be advertised on television? What do you think?
It's a tough one. I think it's that Pioneer stick and hoop thing.
Oh yeah.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, maybe so.
Sticks and hoops.
Alrighty, sticks and hoops.
Sticks and
hoops. Well, here's the answer, everybody. And Mr. Potato Head.
Makes
Mr.
sense.
Potato Head. Alrighty. Okay. Next question. Which country consumes the most chocolate per capita? I would just think the U.S., right?
Same. That's my first thought.
Yeah.
I love chocolate. And everyone I know in the U.S. loves chocolate.
There you go. Well, here's the answer. Switzerland.
They are known for having really good chocolate.
They really are. They really are. Already. And they have really good rainbows in their country, too.
They do.
They really
do.
They really do. Alrighty. Alright, so next question. Which country won the first FIFA World Cup in 1930?
Wow. Long time
Wow. I don't have no clue.
ago. I'm not a soccer follower.
Yeah, so maybe just pick a country, huh?
The country.
Yeah.
U.S. I
U.S.
doubt it.
Yeah. You know what? The U.S. again.
Do
Of
it.
course. Oh!
Second time is not the charm.
There you go. Your
Your
way.
way.
Alrighty, next question. What color is a giraffe's tongue? Ooh, just red, right?
Yeah, like ours is pink.
Yeah.
Why would theirs not be?
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Or, it wouldn't be like Skittles color, right?
No. Though you have seen those Skittle giraffe commercials.
That's true.
Maybe.
Alrighty, well here's the answer. Alrighty, blue, black. Alrighty, got that wrong again. Alrighty, which country has the most vending machines? U.S. U.S.
Again, right off the bat, I was thinking
right?
US.
The country has the most U.S. vending machines.
I like we eat so much and just it has to be.
Yeah, it just has to be. Alrighty, Japan. What the heck?
Now
Wow.
this is per capita. Technically, the U.S. might have
that's
more
true.
vending
That's
machines,
true.
but they have more people per vending machine.
Gotcha. Maybe Noah. Noah, you're online. You're from Japan. Is it true that they have the most vending machines? Maybe you can maybe he can tell us in the live chat. So. Alrighty. Well, hey, we have one more for you. Alrighty. Last one. What is the most frequently sold item at Walmart?
Okay, I don't know when this quiz was written.
Yes.
Right now, though, I'd say toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
It has to be.
It has to
It
be.
has to be.
No, but there was a shortage. So there's no
That's
way.
true.
I bet it's like the last item
Yeah,
purchased.
that's true. They can't sell it that much.
They
if don't have
can't
it,
sell that
honestly.
much. So maybe instead of toilet paper, maybe I don't know. I was going to suggest something else, but I'm not going to. Alrighty, let's just
see.
look at the answer. Bananas! No way. Well, hey, students, we're really excited and glad you're here with us and hanging out. And we have Michelle who's going to bring us the word. So, Michelle.
Hi! So we're gonna have a story tonight that is pretty crazy. And if you've heard me speak before, you've probably heard me tell a few stories about my dad. And one of these stories that I really need you to get is that it's something about my dad that's super weird. Very strange. My dad has this really strange thing where everywhere he goes, he sees accidents. And like, I'm not kidding you. It is very, very odd where growing up, going on vacation, so driving with my dad in the car, we would see an accident. Little League, my dad would be there when the kid gets hit by a pitch. Or we were whitewater rafting and my dad had to actually set the person's leg bone using 2 canoe paddles because an accident happened. And so my dad, he's actually grew up, went into the Army, and became a medic. And after he finished that tour, he then became a nurse practitioner. And then when he graduated and later on in life, he actually went and did more medic work in Iraq. And so he has a ton of medical trauma knowledge. And so when these moments occur and these accidents happen, my dad runs into the scene. He doesn't even hesitate. He jumps out of the car, he'll put it in park, and then he'll run. Or if he sees something happen, he's running onto the baseball field or running to the person that is being dragged out of the water because their leg is broken. It happens all the time, and it is so crazy to me. He is so courageous that he just runs without seemingly thinking. And there's this other story I want to tell you about tonight, and we're going to turn to the book of Esther. This story has so many more details than I'm going to be able to give it, so I would encourage you to read, but I'm going to give you a brief summary. So the book of Esther starts when a king loses his queen. And the way he loses his queen is because he doesn't like that she says no to him, that she won't come to his palace to kind of show off her beauty to his friends. She says no, and he doesn't like that, so he kicks her out of the kingdom. So he's in search of a new queen, and they have this beauty pageant that goes, this invitation to all of the young girls in the land, and our hero, the courageous young woman, enters this pageant. And see, one thing you have to know about our heroine is her name is Esther, and she's Jewish. She's probably about 15 years old at this time when she enters, and she wins, and the king decides to select her. Nobody knows that she's Jewish because her wise older cousin, who's actually kind of her adopted father because her parents die and she's an orphan, he tells her, let's not lie about being Jewish, but let's just not broadcast it and tell everybody. So nobody knows that she's Jewish, and she becomes queen. Yay, fantastic. Well, her wise older cousin starts working for the palace, and his name is Mordecai. Mordecai overhears that there's a plot to assassinate this king. And he's like, oh, I have to do something. So he tells his cousin, Esther, and then he's like, go tell the king because this needs to stop. And so he then sends Esther. Esther goes and she sends a messenger to go tell the king that there is this assassination potentially going to happen. Well, it turns out that Mordecai was right and they stopped this assassination. And so Mordecai doesn't get thanked at this time by the king, but the king is kind of grateful. So fast forward, this is where, for every great story, this is where our villain enters the scene. So there's this guy named Haman. And right now, I know it's kind of weird, but right now I want you in your most judgy voice ever to say, ooh, Haman. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Ooh, Haman. So we don't like Haman, and you will soon see why. Haman is a terrible person, but he is the second most powerful person in this entire kingdom. He literally, the king has said, anytime Haman walks by, Haman needs to be bowed down to. So people, as Haman's walking down the street, just imagine this, people are bowing down and in this way of saying, we respect you, we worship you. He walks by Mordecai, who works for the palace, and Mordecai doesn't bow because Mordecai is a Jew and believes that Yahweh, God, is the only one to bow down to. And Mordecai doesn't say this to anybody. He keeps it secret, but he doesn't bow down. And so his coworkers, these other officials, start to take notice, and they're like, this guy over here, Mordecai, doesn't want to do this. That's not okay. And so they start talking amongst themselves, and they finally get courage to go talk to him and say, hey, Mordecai, what is this? Mordecai says, I'm a Jew, and I believe only God should be the one that we bow down to and worship. So they don't like that answer. They run to Haman, and they're like, Haman, there's a guy named Mordecai that doesn't want to bow down to you. Listen, our villain hates that. The Haman is so angry now at Mordecai, but he doesn't let his anger just stop there. He gets so mad at Mordecai's action that he wants to actually kill and take out all of the Jews in the kingdom. And the Jews are kind of scattered everywhere. So he decides to use his power, and he goes to the king and he says, hey, listen, there are a bunch of Jews in your kingdom, and they don't want to listen to your laws. They disobey you. I think you should assassinate them, and I will pay for them to be assassinated. So the king's like, all right, great plan. Go ahead and tell everybody, make it happen. So they go and tell everybody, and the assassination date is going to be a year from the day that they all got this letter. And the way they're going to kill everybody is they're going to have the neighbors and the people in their towns and area turn against the Jews on March 7th. So when Mordecai hears this, of course he's distraught. He sees the letter and he's like, what? Like, just because of an action I did, and because we believe in God, we can't live anymore. That's not okay. And so he decides to go into mourning. And the way they do mourning is where they literally wear the most itchy, gross, clothing, and they put ashes on. So instead of just taking his clothes off before that, he rips his normal clothes off, he tears them apart, puts this on, and he cries all the way from his house to the gate to go to stand at the palace. So this is when Esther, who's now this queen living in this luxury and everything's great, she kind of hears that her cousin is not wearing cool looking clothes outside of her palace. So she sends people to go ask him what's happening. And they do this exchange back and forth. It would be much easier in our time if they had cell phones you could call. But they have this messenger that has to go back and forth. He probably had to travel 7 different times to carry this conversation. And I'm sure he got in all of his steps for an entire week at this point. So this poor messenger delivers this message. He tells Esther, your cousin is mourning because all the Jews are going to be killed. And so she is like, what? All of them are going to be taken out? And Mordecai says this to her. He says, don't think that you're exempt. You are a Jew as well. And we need your help. And this is my favorite verse in the Bible that talks about it. It says, maybe you were put in this position as queen for such a time as this. Telling her, maybe God has worked behind the scenes to put you in this position. Though you are a young woman, maybe God is setting you up to do something great. And so she comes back and says, okay, I want you to go fast. Tell all of the Jews to fast without eating or drinking for 3 days. I will do the same, and at the end of it, I will come up with a plan. And she reminds him, though, and she says, remember that nobody is allowed to go see the king, to walk in his inner courts without being killed. If the only way out of being killed, because the guards just want to take you out, the only way is if the king decides to welcome you. So she's saying to her cousin, I'm taking a huge risk. If I go and have a conversation with him and he doesn't welcome me, the plan is gone because I will be dead. And we saw what happened to the last queen that decided to not follow the rules. She was banished from the kingdom. So I don't know if it's worth the risk. So she starts to go into this fast and praying and talking to God. And this is where I just think about how my dad, being so courageous, would step in and run into these accident scenes. And I would ask my dad, Dad, are you afraid? Like, because you don't look like it. You have so much confidence in this plan of running in. He's like, Michelle, of course I'm afraid. Of course I'm scared. Of course I don't know if the plan of what I'm supposed to do is the right thing. If I'm supposed to put pressure on that wound, or if I'm supposed to release the pressure. Like, it could go all wrong, and I don't know. But Michelle, do you know what I do? He told me that he is constantly having a conversation with God as he's running in. He's praying to God as he's working on this plan, saying, God, give me clarity to know how to act. And God does every time. I can tell you that he is always key in saving somebody's life. And I believe that him acting in that courageous way is exactly the scenario we find Esther in. She has this fear that she has to overcome and trust that God is going to step in, and he's asking her to be courageous. So this is what happened. So Esther walks in after her 3 days of fasting. She walks into the court, probably trembling and so afraid. And that moment before the king looks her direction, she is probably like, this is it, I'm dying. And the king sees her, and he motions to welcome her. And he says, my queen, why are you here? What request do you have? And in this moment, she's like, well, I would love to tell you, but can we do that in a different scene? So she's like, I have a party planned for you. I would love for you and Haman, your second in command, to come to my party where I will then share with you my request. So this is where it gets another crazy twist, but they both are excited and delighted to go to this banquet. They go to a pre-banquet, because this banquet, of course, they're into these parties that last many days, and they both leave, and the king can't sleep that night. He's having trouble sleeping, and this is where God is working behind the scenes. God probably was the one, it doesn't say it in scripture, but he's probably the one kind of making some noise and causing this king to not be able to sleep. But the king wakes up and he's like, hey, let me go think about the people that have saved me. And so he finds out, he's like, we never did anything nice for Mordecai. I think we should do something nice for him because he saved my life. At the same time, you have Haman, who left the party, goes to his family, and he's like, yeah, that guy Mordecai was terrible. We should actually plot to kill him. So he instructs his family, including his wife, to make this giant spear of 7 feet tall. So he makes it into a point where he's going to stab Mordecai and put him up on display. So his body will be suspended in the air. So those are happening at the same time. The king calls Haman in the middle of the night, and he's like, Haman, come, I have a question. I really want to do something great for a person that's really honored me. What do you think I should do? And Haman, being so arrogant, thinks that the king is talking about him. He's like, oh, the king wants to just thank me. So king, what you should do for this person, and he's like, meaning me, should be the person that you put a robe that you own on. And we put them on display, we put them on your horse, and we have people shouting their praise as they walk down the street. And the king's like, oh, great plan, I love it. I want you to go be that person to tell Mordecai that he is the honored man. So Haman's like, what? The guy I want to kill is going to be the guy that I now have to stand behind a horse and say, the king really likes this man over and over again. He's like, that's not cool. So the party is getting ready to go under place. So Haman rushes back to his family. And he's like, time out, don't kill Mordecai because now I gotta go thank him. And so he goes and thanks him. The party happens that night, this banquet, where Esther does something crazy. And so here is what I want you to see. Esther, in this moment, she says to her king and Haman, she's like, Haman, king, what I really wanted to tell you was that my people are going to be assassinated. And I myself am included in that. There's a person that decided that we weren't worth living and that we should be taken out. And the king, of course, is like, what? Who is that man? Why would they do it? And she's like, well, it's Haman right here. Haman turns white. He freaks out. He, of course, is like, no, this isn't the plan. I don't know what to do. And the king gets so angry that he's like, no, Haman is going to be the one to be assassinated. And Haman dies on the same pole that he sharpened for Mordecai. It's this crazy turn of events where then the decree gets reversed and all of the people get saved. And I guarantee you it is so much more fascinating. You should read the end of the story. But what I want you to think about here is I want you to think about if you were in her situation. If you were Esther, who we know would have been about 15, and by the time she went to the king was probably about 20 years old. So she's not some very mature, wise person. She is a young girl that feels very strongly that she's the only one to be able to save this group of people. She's the only one to speak up for justice. And God put her in this position. So I want you to think about this. What is something in your life that you need to act on? What is a moment or a group of people? Maybe it's standing up for somebody at school that's being treated poorly. Even if it's over Zoom, it can totally be you speaking up and defending somebody. Maybe it's bigger than that. It's a group of people that have maybe been like the Jews, completely cast aside and said, you're not worth anything. And maybe people aren't trying to kill them. Maybe it is this more subtle way that they don't see them as equal. And we see that throughout our world right now. There are people still in slavery, and there's injustices happening around the globe. There are people treated differently because of the color of their skin, or because of how much money they make. They are seen as less than, and we don't see them as equal. And that is a problem. And Esther is so clear that God's heart is for equality. And so my encouragement for you is, although you might be scared to act, maybe God has placed you, just like Esther, for such a time as this. And so I encourage you to think through how you might be able to act and trust that God is going to work, even if you're afraid.
All right, hey, thank you, Michelle, for bringing us such a great word. And students, don't forget, jump into Zoom for your small group discussions and be on the lookout. Hopefully tomorrow, we are going to send out some emails to you. We're going to be advertising a parenting seminar for your families. And then we're hoping also to send you the October calendar. And we have a really raging event. It's going to be a talent show. It's going to be a YouTube live talent show. All the students in the ministry are going to be a part of it. We're excited for it. We'll have more details coming, so stay tuned for that. Enjoy your time in small groups, and we'll see you back next week, 6:30 p.m., DC Live.